and gentlemen, thank you for joining me for another video. It's Friday, so I have buy sells. Today I have 4 buys for you guys, as well as 2 players to sell off where their value is highest. We're gonna try to improve our rosters. The best way we can do that is by selling high on some of these guys that are just overperforming and that is not sustainable, and then buying low on some targets who just haven't quite reached expectations, but I believe that they will. Now, please note, some of these buys and sells are not gonna work out in the first week or 2 even, but we are looking long term. Who is going to be good to go and improve our teams when we talk about the fantasy playoffs and the weeks that actually matter. While we are here, please consider throwing a like on the video. That helps me out a bunch. And a subscription to the channel means the world to me. I am trying to get to my first 500 subscribers. You can be a part of that by clicking that button. With that done, let's get into buy sell. We'll start with the buys, and the first guy I have is Brandon Cooks. There are plenty of reasons to like getting him on your roster. We start with the fact that absolutely no one is emerging in this Houston passing attack. And who else is Davis Mills supposed to throw to? His wide receiver 2 option right now is Nico Collins. But what has Collins done so far this year? Well, let me tell you. As a wide receiver 2, he has 16 targets on the year for a total of 125 yards. That's not gonna get it done. Cook's target share has consistently been at the top or near it for the entire NFL. That is going to continue. So far this year, he's averaging 10 targets per game. There is going to also be a ton of throwing for Houston this year. They're not a very good football team. They're going to be behind. They're going to be playing catch up. And that means that Cook's opportunities are going to rise when that happens. And finally, Cooks has been one of the most consistent producers in the league over the course of his career. And he's also been extremely healthy. He's only missed 4 games over the last 7 years. And in that span, he's averaging over 1,050 yards per season. And in that time, he's also scored 43 touchdowns. Those are the kind of numbers that I want to add to my team. The next buy that I have is Javonte Williams. And I know that the Denver offense has looked, we'll say, putrid so far this season. I do understand that. But Russell Wilson is still just beginning to learn his personnel and this offense. He is too good, I think he's still too good, to stay this down for too long. Javonte also continues to see the majority of the touches in this backfield. And more importantly, he is seeing the high value ones, the ones that matter the most. He already has 3 carries inside of the 5-yard line. He just hasn't been able to put any of them away yet, but he will. And he's seen 19 touches or more in every game this season. We know that he has upside even if Melvin Gordon is there. But if anything happens to Gordon in this backfield, Javonte has league-winning upside, and we always want to add that to our squads. Finally, Melvin Gordon was the scorer of the touchdown in week number 3. It was not Javonte Williams. So what that does is open us up to be able to go buy him now when owners are probably souring a little bit that finally a Denver back scored and it was not theirs. I don't think there is going to be a better time to buy him at all for the rest of the year. We have to do it now, and that is because the Broncos get the Raiders in week number 4, and they are giving up top 5 numbers to the position. So if you wait till next week and he goes off against Vegas, that's it. Your window is closed. You got no chance. So we want to pounce while we have the opportunity. Next on my list as a buy is Deontay Johnson. He is one of only 2 receivers so far this year to have double-digit targets in every single game, and his target share is once again among the tops in the NFL like it was last year. He is not being challenged, similar to Brandon Cooks, by any other pass catchers in this offense. I know there was a lot of George Pickens hype, Chase Claypool a little bit as well. That has not really materialized, at least consistently, in this offense. he is still the dude. Finally, Najee Harris has had injury issues already this year, and we're only 3 weeks in. And if Harris, God forbid, goes out for an extended period of time, who do we think is going to step up in this offense with more touches? It is going to be DJ. We've seen that Johnson does not have to go deep to produce, although obviously we would prefer that. But last week he dropped, semi-drop maybe, a 50-yard touchdown. Now that would have put his day over the top and would have shut the door closed on an opportunity to buy him. So maybe it's a blessing in disguise for those of you who do not own DJ just yet. With Mitch Trubisky at the helm, we know that the upside is low. However, we also know that at any given time, the Steelers can give up on Mitch, hand the reins over to Kenny Pickett, and he may not be a lot better than what Mitch has shown, but he certainly can't be any worse. Last thing, for real this time, is that over the course of his career, Deontay Johnson has never had a season where he hasn't scored 6 touchdowns or more. Now, he has 0 so far this year. That means he is due, and we want to get him on our rosters before that happens. My final buy that I'm looking at is Breece Hall. Loved him in preseason and heading up to the draft. If you weren't unable to get your hands on him, this might be your last chance. The target volume is where we're going to start. And in week number 3, it was all Breece Hall over Michael Carter, 11 targets to just 2. This was Breece Hall's second game in 3 tries where he's had 9 or more targets, which is huge for a running back. And that is going to be very valuable in a Jets offense that is going to be playing from behind a lot this season. Hall also outsnapped Michael Carter in week number 3. It was the first time that happened, but it is continuing to trend in that direction for him. So we want to get ahead of the curve if we can. Hall has been the more efficient back with his touches so far. He's averaging 5.3 yards per carry and over 7.5 per reception as well. The Jets did not invest heavily in Breece Hall for no reason. They wouldn't have taken him in the second round if they weren't going to utilize him. It just seems to be happening sooner rather than later. Finally, I talked about it a little bit, but we want to buy him before the breakout happens, and it is going too soon. Already this season, Breece Hall finished as running back 40 in week 1. In week 2, he was running back 18, and then last week, he was an RB1 at RB12. So maybe the owner is still sleeping on him a little bit because he hasn't fully taken on the reins, but he just might this week, so time is running out. Take advantage while you still can. Now, let's get to my sells. I just have a pair of them. We're going to start with Cordarrelle Patterson. Now, first things first. I did this last year. It worked out to some extent when you think about how we ended the season, but I certainly did not look good on this call for a lot of it, and I get that, but I am going back to the well. There are just too many flags for me to promote Patterson as a player we want to hold on to. Number 1, his usage as a receiver has declined significantly. Over the last 2 weeks, he's gotten a single target in each game. And for last year, that was a big part of what made him so valuable. So with that dwindling, red flag number 1. Next up, Tyler Algier, the rookie. Don't know if I said his name right. He has seen his snap count increase in each of the past 2 weeks. He is going to continue to be more heavily involved as the season goes on. And we cannot forget that Damian Williams, a guy that they brought to this team to back up Cordarrelle Patterson, has been on IR. He hasn't even been there to steal touches. So when he returns, which could be in a couple weeks, we are really unsure what this backfield is going to look like, and I do not like that uncertainty. Patterson is also 31 years old, which is an ancient man by running back standards in the NFL. He started breaking down, we saw towards the end of last year in the fantasy playoffs when owners needed him most. Where was he? Well, if he was in your lineup, he was actually hurting you, and that could easily happen again this season as he's a year older. And not only that, but we've heard Coach Arthur Smith already talk about managing his workload, and it is week number 4, ladies and gentlemen, so that is not a good sign. Since you drafted him as probably your 3rd, maybe even your 4th back, there is very little reason to believe that you cannot sell him and be fine with it, and you can add another valuable piece that is going to help your roster. Finally, Atlanta, they've looked okay so far, but I have a hard time believing that they are going to continue to be in so many games this year. There are going to be plenty of weeks where the Falcons are getting crushed and they have to go to the air. And we just talked about how Patterson is not being involved in the passing game. So when Atlanta is inevitably down big, Patterson is not going to be a guy that is going to be getting you those garbage time points. He is going to be on the bench as other players are racking them up. Patterson is going to be easy to sell right now because in 2 out of 3 weeks, he's gone for 120 plus yards on the ground and a score. But there's no way that that is sustainable, so sell him high now while you still have the opportunity. Finally, the last guy, and this is going to surprise nobody if you've been paying attention, but Zeke Elliott is my last sell. He continues, as he has for what seems like all of eternity, to be outproduced by Tony Pollard. Zeke's efficiency has nosedived, not over the last couple games or weeks or months, but seasons. And in that time frame, Pollard's metrics have been sparkling. He's been at or near the top of the league in so many efficiency metrics. Zeke also, like Patterson, has 0 for his passing game work. In fact, it's almost a negative. He's caught 3 balls on the year for a total of -5 yards. Ouch. Dallas's culture is about winning. At least that's the facade that they like to put out there. So they're going to give the ball to the best players who give them the chance to succeed. And that has been Tony Pollard in spades. We know that Zeke still has name value for whatever reason, so we can use that in this very small window to sell him. You may not get another chance to do so either, because prior to this week, where he finished as RB13, Zeke had finishes of running back 45 and running back 48. The final bonus in actually being able to sell Zeke right now is that we've heard good news for the most part from Dak's camp about being able to return sooner rather than later. So we can use that as another chip in being able to sell Zeke off while he still has some value. And that is all I have for you guys for the video today. Hope that you can take advantage of some of this advice, make a move, and improve your rosters. If you are considering any trades, drop those down below. I would love to be able to help you out with them. Keep an eye out for all the great content that Relentless Press is putting out. It's a weekly basis, so hit that like button on the video and then subscribe to the channel so you do not miss a thing. This is Relentless Press. I am your host, Avery Mopats, and we will see you next time.